Welcome to the Sacred Feminine Connection podcast, founded by me, Anne Reynolds, with a twofold mission, which is to reweave the red thread of sisterhood among women around the world and restore the sacred connection between the feminine and masculine that thrived in ancient times but was lost and forgotten. At this time, this podcast airs every second Monday of the month. Today's episode is entitled The Sacred Feminine Power of Womb Alchemy. Our special guest speaker today is Emmi Mutale, an intuitive healer, energy medicine practitioner, shamanic womb priestess, best-selling author, and teacher dedicated to reawakening ancient feminine wisdom and creating a global movement of womb and heart-centered new earth leaders. She is also the host of the Sacred Feminine Power podcast and Return to the Mother World speaker series. Trained in various healing modalities, she creates safe, sacred, and non judgmental spaces for deep transformation and facilitates the emergence of authentic connection, profound knowing, and inner power for women of all ages around the world, with the intention of raising the frequency of our planet and fostering deep healing, one womb at a time. Welcome, Emmi. Thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure to have you join us today.
Oh, thank you, Anne, for the invitation. It's such an honor to be part of this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Emmi and I already have a sacred connection. She is the first woman who introduced me to womb wisdom, and I'm super, super grateful for that. So thank you so much, Emmi, for the introduction. And it was such a wonderful process. And here I am, and here we are together, and we are reconnecting womb to womb. So I'm so excited for you to be here today.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much.
So first of all, could you tell us more about the motivation behind the title, The Sacred Feminine Power of Womb Alchemy?
Absolutely, I would love to. So for me, the womb is really the central foundation of the work that I do with women and with men. For me, the womb is really the inner sanctum, the holiest of the holies inside our bodies, our temples. Just like if you go to a physical temple, the inner sanctum of that temple is the most sacred part. That's the holiest of the holies inside a temple. Well, in this case, our bodies are the temples, and the womb is the holiest of the holies inside our bodies. And it is through our wombs that we can connect with ancient feminine wisdom, with infinite power, with infinite strength. We can journey through our wombs into other dimensions, use our wombs as portals to connect with wisdom that is way beyond human consciousness at the moment as well. And through our wombs, we can also bring healing to ourselves and to our world and humanity as a collective as well. And most of us have been pretty completely disconnected from our wombs and this knowing that our wombs hold all this power. And this is very much a systematic, very structured, very well thought out implementation by patriarchy for thousands of years. They recognize the power of our wombs and they recognize how powerful we as women are when we are truly connected to that power of our wombs. So there has been a thousands of years old attempt to completely disconnect us from that womb power. And to a large part, they have been quite successful. I mean, as I said before, a lot of us are completely disconnected from the fact that our wombs carry this incredible power beyond the ability to produce new life. And that in itself, by the way, is a miracle as well. Just the mere fact of us being able to produce new life, to bring through new life, to be the portals through which souls are birthed into the earthly realms, in and of itself is a huge miracle. And yet the purpose of the womb goes beyond that as well. And that is the power that we need to reclaim and reconnect with. And when we do that, that is when we start to really truly align with that sacred feminine power. that sacred feminine power that allows us to be fierce and compassionate at the same time. That power that allows us to be both, to hold space for the beauty and the ugliness, to hold space for the pain and the pleasure, to hold space for deep grief and for deep states of bliss at the same time as well. And it is these kinds of nuances that start to make up sacred feminine power for me.
That's so beautiful how you say that. And I definitely was one of those initiates to step into this sacred womb mystery and to discover that this is really what it means to be a woman and what it means to have feminine power. And it's something that is living within us, but it's been dormant. And it's so true about what you said about being disconnected. Because before meeting you, Emmy, I was teaching about the feminine, and but it was more like on a surface level. It wasn't really what you just described. And when I stepped into this world, which is like how you said, it's like a portal to many different dimensions, then I just realized like how much power that we really have as women. And it's just really beautiful to see. And I can't wait to hear more about it as you talk further about it. So thank you so much again, Emmy. I mean, it has been life changing to work with you. So I'm really, really super grateful. And I'm really loving what I'm hearing today and just being in this presence and in this beautiful energy.
Bless you, Anne. And I think it's really important also to mention that even if you no longer have a physical womb, so if you've had a partial or a full hysterectomy, you can learn to work with the energetic or the etheric blueprint of the womb. That will always be inside you. And often it is the energetic work with that etheric blueprint that becomes the most potent practice of all within womb alchemy, within womb mystery, and within womb magic.
That's so beautiful and that's so true. And that, and also because then there's also the cycle, the menstruation cycle, and whether or not a woman is menstruating, she can also work with the womb power.
Absolutely, yes. You no longer need to menstruate. The cycles will continue energetically within you, but you don't necessarily need to be completely aware of that either. You can still work with the womb space, the energetic or the physical womb, and you also don't need to be a mother. I have a lot of women who've said to me, "I thought I couldn't do womb work because I'm not a mother." But that does not disqualify you from doing womb work. As I said before, even though giving birth and nurturing new life into being is a huge part of being a woman, a huge component of womb magic and mystery, it is not its only function. It expands way beyond that. And I mean, for me as well, and for most of my life, for maybe into my early 30s, I was also completely disconnected from the knowing that my womb carried so much power. I had been pregnant 3 times and given birth twice. And yes, I was connecting with my babies inside the womb, but I wasn't connecting with the womb herself, completely oblivious to all these nuances and deeper layers of the womb mysteries until I had my initiation and everything changed for me as well.
Yeah, it was the same for me, Emmy, because I have 2 children and I was pregnant twice and I did connect with my children. But aside from that, my womb was silent. It had not, I did not feel my womb at all. And then I would have the monthly periods, but there was, with other women, sometimes they cramp or, there is some sense that it's coming. There was nothing for me. My womb was completely silent, and she came alive when I started working with you. And yeah, it was a journey, but it's something that I'm really grateful for. So I'm super, super excited to be able to talk to you about all these things. And it's really like a beautiful return.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a homecoming. We are returning home to ourselves. We are returning home to that sacred feminine power that we talked about. And we're returning home to our divinity, which again, patriarchy and the so-called powers that be have for so long tried to disconnect us from. And the pressure is building up with transhumanism and artificial intelligence and all of that. They are really doing their darnest to try and disconnect us from our humanity and get us to forget how powerful we as human beings truly are.
Yes. And so it's really time for us to just go down. I mean, because then, I mean, one of the things that I realized is that so there is something called transcendence, and there are a lot of people who are thinking that getting closer to divinity is going upwards by transcending, but actually, through womb wisdom, I learned that it's actually descending down. So, and that's something, and that's the reason why I mention it. But there is just so much to this, and there is such depth that I can't wait to hear more of your wisdom regarding this. And so
Hmm.
I would like to ask you, how did the sacred feminine call out to you for the first time in your life?
Hmm. Well, I think she's always been with me, and I just haven't been aware of it. The very first memory I have of what I then did not recognize to be the sacred feminine, which I understood was only later. But I was only maybe 8 or 9 years old, and I was in bed, about to sleep, and I was kind of like in that in between state between being awake and starting to fall asleep. And then all of a sudden, I felt this radiant, warm energy that just came through and enveloped me completely. I was completely surrounded by this warmth, by this lovely, warm, safe energy. I felt so held and so safe in that moment. And I don't know how long I felt into this energy. All I know is I just kind of fell asleep after a little while. But it was such a visceral experience that it stayed with me. And it was only years and years later that I realized, oh my goodness me, that was the Great Mother holding me in that moment, coming through to me, helping me to feel safe. Because home wasn't always safe, because my dad had undiagnosed mental health issues, could fly into a state of rage at the snap of a fingers. And I learned to tiptoe around the apartment from a very, very early age, learned to read energy from a very early age, always made sure I checked what the vibration in the room was like before I entered, and became kind of hyper vigilant in that way. But in that moment in my bed, I felt so safe. I felt so safe, held and loved, that it was just like a blissful state of being. And again, after that, for a very, very long time, I lived from a very masculine energy. I was very much about, action and doing and pushing through tiredness, pushing through even pain, and pushing through anything that was going on inside my body around me in order to get to where I to get. And that was very evident or once I entered the world work and started to climb the career in the humanitarian field, working on women's and child rights. And I would really push myself really hard, take on more and more responsibilities at work, and really ignore the signs of tiredness that my body was giving me. Just to give you a bit of a context as well, this was in my late 20s and early 30s, actually early 30s. I had two tiny kids, both of them under the age of 2. I was working full time in a responsible position within an agency that I at the time loved and wanted to, rise in the career ladder of. And I was still breastfeeding my baby daughters be 4 hours a night. And I had absolutely no me time in the business of raising children and in the business of my job. and I'm not going to even bring my husband into the picture here. And as I said, I kept on ignoring the signs and the messages from my body around how tired I was, how fatigued I was. And I started to get really impatient with my kids. I started snapping at them. I started to get impatient with my husband. It just actually sit in a heat bathroom. I had just yelled at my baby, looking for a way out, a permanent way out. And it could well be that if we had stopped sleeping pills at the house, I might not be here. But luckily we didn't. And it was in that moment of desperation, it felt like there was this tiny little green shoot that was starting to open up inside my chest. And although I had no idea how I was going to get better, in that moment, I knew that I would. And that was a huge turning point. So after that, I started to get back onto my spiritual path that I had kind of pushed aside when I was busy building my career. Started to go back to the healing modalities that I'd already learned in my early 20s and started to add more modalities to that. And then over time, as my cup started to overflow, I then started to offer healing support to others as well. And it was during one especially potent meditation. In fact, it is the I Am meditation, I Am that I Am meditation by Wayne Dyer, that was set to the music of James Twyman. I started to listen to that music, and with the very, very first chords, Yeshua appeared to me. And I was astounded by what I saw and felt because I had pushed him aside in my teenage years when I pushed away Christianity. I pushed away the notion of a male God. I pushed away the notion of Yeshua. I pushed away even the notion of angels to a certain extent at that time. And then here I am in this beautiful meditation, and Yeshua comes through. Like, what on earth are you doing here? And he kind of became my main guide at that point. He started to teach me, he started to guide me in many, many ways. And one of the biggest impacts he had on me was he guided me to the sacred feminine. So it was Yeshua who took me to Mother Mary initially. And then Mother Mary became my main guide and started to initiate me into the secrets and the magic and the mystery of the sacred feminine.
How wonderful. What a beautiful story. I'm so excited to hear about it. And that's so wonderful to know how Yeshua's and the great mothers influence, they were looking over you and they were seeing you as the leader, the one who is going to help women to come back to who they are. So that's really, really wonderful. Thank you, Emmy, for sharing that. And I can really relate, to the masculine energy because I grew up with my father, and so I feel that I was in a similar position, and I can really feel you on the kids because I raised two children as well. And I remember the times that it did become overwhelming. And yeah, but we are somehow resilience takes over with women, and somehow we figure it all out. Well, as a mother, as a wife, and with a career, and here we are in one piece, and here we are talking together today, and we went through it all, and we came out on the other side shining. So this is really wonderful, and yes, I can see that in you as well. So this is really, really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all these stories and life experiences here with me and with the listeners of this podcast today. So, Emmy, you talked a little bit about your experience, your first experience of the Great Mother holding you before you were going to sleep, and also about Yeshua coming to you. And so, would you say that this is this already part of the experience of the sacred feminine that made the most impact in your life and motivated you towards the work you do with women today? Or is there more that you have to share with us? Because I would really love to know how you got into this womb work, and also, your work, and also you also host a podcast, and there's the Return to the Mother World series, and there's just so many things that you are doing to help women around the world, and I would love to know more about how that was born.
Mm. Oh, there's many more stories there, Anne, for sure. And an intriguing one is that this is now maybe 10, 12, maybe even 15 years ago. I can't keep track of time anymore, but I remember being in a bookstore, and I had already collected like a big heap of books that I had planned to buy. And I was browsing through the shelves to see if there was anything else that kind of just caught my eye. And then suddenly I noticed from the corner of my eye this oracle card deck. It was dark red, or this burgundy color, and there was this painting of a beautiful woman on the cover with the imagery of rose and a bird's nest with eggs inside the nest. And there was something about that image that really just drew me in. So I walked over, and it was the Mother Mary Oracle deck by Alana Fairchild. And remember, at this point, I was not connected to Mother Mary at all. I knew that her as kind of like Virgin Mary from the Bible, but had no connection or alignment with her whatsoever. So I looked at the deck and I was like, this looks really cool. I love the paintings. I love the way the cards look. And then I looked at the price, like, oh, okay, not taking this one, placed it back on the shelf, turned around, started to walk away. And then I felt such a strong tug inside my belly. Must have been my womb, but at the time I didn't connect it to the womb. But this tug was so strong that I had to turn back. I had to go back to that shelf with the oracle decks, and I had to take that oracle deck. So I placed one of the books that I had picked, placed it back on the shelf, put it away, and picked up the oracle deck instead. And that was really the beginning of that deeper connection with Mother Mary as well. Just working with the oracle cards, listening to the messages, tuning into the beautiful paintings by Shiloh Sophia and the wonderful oracles by Alana Fairchild. And slowly, that connection then started to deepen, and there were like these insights and these connections that started to happen as well. However, one of the most visceral experiences of a connection with the Great Mother was later on, a couple of years later, when I had joined a womb awakening apprenticeship run by Saren and Azra Bertrand, my womb awakening teachers. And we had just done a beautiful meditation, a shamanic meditation. And at the end of that meditation, we were invited to say out loud the words, Great Mother, thank you for my life. I have heard your call. And after I'd said those words out loud, I burst into tears. My whole body was tingling, and I had the sense of this shaking throughout my body as well. And there was at the same time this knowing, this deep knowing, this connectedness to something that I knew I had known deep in my bones for eons. And at the same time, there was this grief and this sadness that I'd been disconnected from this knowing for such a long time, and not just this lifetime, many lifetimes, disconnected from this knowing, from this deep connection, sacred connection to the Great Mother. And it was in that moment that I also knew that this was my path, that I would dedicate my life to the Great Mother, to walk in the path of love, and to bringing back this ancient feminine wisdom and supporting women and men to feel safe in that power, to reconnect with that wisdom within themselves, and to really truly walk their paths the way they're meant to be walked, bringing each other home.
Wow, that was such a profound experience, Emmy. I wanted to ask you when this knowing just this deep knowing just came, like what was it like and how were you sure that that was your path?
Mm. It was really just that visceral experience, the massive impact that those words had on me. There was absolutely no doubt that that it wouldn't be the truth. There was absolute no space for questioning. It was just so very clear. This is it. And it was like a full body, full womb yes to all of it.
That's so beautiful. And I wanted to ask you, since you were doing the 13 moon path program with Seren and Azra Bertrand, how did you come in contact with that? How did that happen? Did it just all happen? Because sometimes when the great mother calls, it all just happens, just like how I found you somehow, and then there you were, and then here I was, and then my womb says yes. So could you tell us a little bit more about how you came in contact with the teachers that guided you?
Yeah, sure. Well, to be honest, I can't actually remember exactly how I first found out about them. It doesn't seem to matter at this point. What matters more is that they were just starting to promote the 13 Moon, the Womb Awakening program. And I was hesitating whether I should take part in it because I knew it was going to be quite an intense 13 months. And I was busy with many other things. And I remember very clearly, I was sitting on my sofa. I was writing in my diary and doodling in my diary. And I started to draw this image um, of a female figure in a long robe. She was in a forest and she had this beautiful horned headdress on her head. And the drawing just kind of flowed out of me. And then a couple of days later, maybe even the next day, Sarah and Azra posted on Facebook, I think it was, they made a post on Facebook where they were calling out for participants to this 13 Moon program. And the image that they had on that post was almost an exact replica of what I drew in my journal the day before. So that was like another sign, like, heck yeah, I'm doing this. And I emailed them right away and I got on the program. And that was really like the beginning of all the womb awakening work and like that deep communion with my own womb and collective womb consciousness, the womb of Gaia, the womb of the creatrix. All of this just started to come into my life in a very, very powerful way. And the beautiful thing was that it all made so much sense. It all felt so aligned. It was like that working with the womb was the missing piece, like that puzzle piece that had been missing for a long time. And once that came into the picture, everything else just kind of fell into place.
Wow, it sounds so like the perfect alignment. And it was
Yeah.
meant to be, and you heard the call, and how wonderful for it to all come together. And this is how I know that this is how the divine works. And so I can really see that. And it's really so enlightening and so heartwarming to see how it all came into place for you. So thank you so much for sharing that, Emmy. This is so beautiful and it's so wonderful to get to know you more because I have worked so closely with you, and then this just goes a level deeper, and it's just really so wonderful to be in the same space here and listening to you and learning more about your story. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
So, Emmy, what is the one feminine quality that you connect with the most and why?
Mm, that's a hard question for me to answer, but I would say the very first thing that came to mind was fierce compassion. And that again really goes back to what I mentioned in the beginning around how we as women, in likeness to the Great Mother, can hold it all. And how the times that we live in, these tremendous times of change and transformation, where there is so much fear and polarization, so much finger pointing, so much grief and sadness, conflict, division. We're living with all of this. And we are all witnesses to that, whether we choose to look at it in the eye or not. We are all witnesses to what is happening on our planet right now. And it is in the times like these that we all need to be very, very centered in our hearts and in our womb wisdom and cultivate compassion as perhaps one of the single most important qualities that will take us through these very challenging times of change that we live in and allow us to move into what many of us call the new earth or the Aquarian age with more ease and with more grace. And the reason I call this fierce compassion is because we cannot close our eyes to the suffering that is happening in our world. We cannot be numb to that. And we also cannot stay silent. Because when we are silent, we are complicit to what is happening in the world. Whether we are talking about genocide within a certain population, whether we're talking about the destruction of forests all over the world, whether we're talking about the pollution of rivers and oceans and other waterways, or the pollution of the air that we breathe, or whether we are talking about the toxicity that is being directed towards us as human beings on a daily basis, again, through the air that we breathe, the water we drink, the foods that we eat, the medications we choose to put inside our bodies, no matter how we take them in. All of this is, again, orchestrated to disconnect us from our innate divinity and from our power. And that's where the fierceness arises. We need to be aware of this. We need to know this. We need to acknowledge this, but we can't let it get us down. We can't let it get us to a state of helplessness or hopelessness. We must be fierce in the face of what is happening. And through that sense of compassion, this knowing that we are all here for a purpose. We all have a part to play in the shifting times that we are living in. And for some of us, that will be about awakening people to what is actually happening. For some of us, it is about playing a huge healing and transformation role. For some of us, it will be to play the role of a villain and really juxtapose those energies of love, compassion, and kindness and destruct what we've been living in for thousands of years now, to get us to open our eyes, to really truly see what's happening on our planet, who's holding the strings behind the scenes, and what is at stake right now. I alluded before to transhumanism and artificial intelligence. And we are truly in the midst of a Gnostic war between good and evil. And that might sound very cliche, and a lot of people might go, oh my goodness me, why is she being so melodramatic? But that is actually what is happening. We are in the midst of an ancient war, and the stakes are getting higher. The technologies are becoming more and more advanced. The way they are able to control us is becoming more and more advanced. And we need to be incredibly vigilant and discerning in terms of what we allow into our bodies, into our lives, into our minds, and what we allow to impact us. So fiercely guarding our sovereignty, fiercely guarding our divinity, fiercely guarding the love that makes us human. And doing all of that through compassion, understanding the bigger picture, and remembering that love is the greatest elixir that we have available to us as humans on this planet of ours.
That's so beautifully said and so true, Emmy. In this modern time, it is like an old war that is going on, just like you said. And I mean, just everything that you explained right now, it so beautifully embodies like the truth about women and the feminine. And it's not that women are, oh, okay, we can be compassionate or and then quiet. But I would say that just everything that you said right now and what you are standing for and the truth of what you are saying, this shows that we women, we also have our purpose. We also have uh, the right to take a stand and to do that with the fierce compassion, like you say, and how it's so important for all the women listening right now, and even the men who are listening, who are supporting this podcast. I mean, you can just see that it's women aren't just meant to be quiet and to be docile and to just be silent in the background or just stay at home and mind their own business. I mean, it goes beyond that. And this is where the sacred feminine power lies. And I can really see that in you, Emmy. And I'm really proud and grateful for what you stand for and for bringing your voice to this podcast today and just showing us what it really means to have fierce compassion. Thank you so much. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So, could you tell us a little bit more about your free gift for all the listeners today? And I believe that you also have a program that you would like to tell us more about.
Absolutely. So the free gift is an activation called You Are a Miracle. And this is a download that came through for me from the wise old crone a little while back. And it essentially is kind of like a meditative journey that reminds you of your divinity, reminds you of your power, and reminds you of the fact that you are indeed a miracle. So, my invitation is to allow my voice and my words to just take you gently deep within and allow the words to activate something within you with that one.
And so the link is in the notes. So please download that today and then realize that yes, you are a miracle, and that's both for men and women. And so just I would deeply invite everyone to download this today and have a listen and see what this meditation would do for you.
Hmm.
And also, Emmy, could you please tell us a little bit more about the program because you did talk about womb alchemy?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm currently running a program called Womb Alchemy, the Grail Gates Journey. And this is a beautiful, potent journey into the mystery and the magic of the shamanic womb medicine wheel, where we journey through 8 Grail gates. And these Grail gates consist of the first one is the clitoris and the lips of the vulva. The second Grail gate is the G spot. And the third Grail gate is the cervix. So this is really the entrance way, the portal up into the womb. And with the fourth Grail gate, we enter the holy womb and we work with different parts of the womb space. So the floor of the womb, the ceiling of the womb, both ovaries, and then the core of the womb as well. And each Grail gate holds its own vibration and frequency, holds its own gifts and blessings, and also holds its own trauma and wounding. So within this journey, we will address these aspects of each one of these Grail gates, work deeply with all of them. And through both live sessions where I do powerful healing and transformational work with the participants, there's also pre-recorded materials that the participants can go through at their own pace, at their own time, in the safety of their own homes and connect more deeply with each of the Grail gates as well. The program is currently running, and we have just entered the fourth Grail gate. So we've just entered the womb space now. Because you have forever access to all of the materials, it is not too late to join. So if this is calling you, you can absolutely still join us. However, I will also be running it live again, I would imagine relatively soon, if not again this year, then early next year, because it feels like there's a real true need for this right now. It feels very aligned with the times that we are living in, and allows for deep healing and transformation as well. Because there's a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of grief and pain attached to these grail gates. I mean, we are working with the most feminine, most sacred parts of the feminine body. And as we know, these parts of our bodies have been demonized and vilified and shamed in so many ways within patriarchy. And this is really about reclaiming those grail gates as our true feminine essence, returning back to the feminine soul on so many levels, and coming back to our sacred feminine power, really.
And so, thank you, Emmy, for joining us. It was a real pleasure. In closing this podcast for today, I wanted to ask you, what message do you have for women who are listening to this interview right now?
Hmm. Well, what comes through immediately is really this knowing, this truth that it's never too late to bring through healing into your life. It's never too late to connect with the sacredness and the power of your womb. It doesn't matter what phase of life you are in. It doesn't matter whether you are 15 or 99. The timing is right for you. So if you are listening to this podcast, if you are feeling the chills or the tingles or the womb winks or womb nudges, like I like to call them, then this is simply just a sign that perhaps it's time to reconnect with that ancient feminine wisdom and reclaim your sacred feminine power.
Beautiful. And would you have a message for the men who are also listening to this interview right now, Emmy?
If you are indeed listening to this interview, I honor you. I know this is not the easiest of topics to hear necessarily, especially in a world that has disconnected men from all of this information for such a long time. So if you are indeed listening, then I honor you. Thank you for your presence. And I would invite you to gently start to explore the world of womb consciousness and what it might mean to you as a man, what it might bring to you as a man. And what would change in your life if you are in a relationship with a woman? What would change for you if you started to honor your partner through the wisdom of her womb?
That's so beautifully said, Emmy. Thank you so much for that. That is just such a beautiful message. Thank you, Emmy, for being here today, and I'm really, really grateful for you sharing your wisdom. This was so beautiful.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today in this sacred space. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. If you liked today's episode, please share this podcast with someone who really needs to hear this truth, and follow me for more groundbreaking interviews. Together, let's remember the womb that connects us all and rebuild relationships based on love and trust, open our hearts, and heal the world.